Yeah, and as you can see, it's possibly slightly geeky and things, but every now and again you've got to have a go at something a little bit geeky. So I'm looking at exploration with computer science. This slide shows a Google presentation, so if you wanted to go to bit.ly/Southwell/Scratch, you can see it all, and there are some notes that go with it. But basically, started off, we've got looking at going on a journey, but we're a little bit lost. So the first thing you've got to do, if you're in my position, is find a guinea pig, or find a guinea pig or two. And basically, one of the things that came out of the ISTE thing and Dr. Young Zhao was he challenged to people to look at the ceiling, not just the floor and the floor of standard. We had people within the school working with a program called Scratch. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but it's a graphical programming interface. I will show you briefly how that looks. In fact, I'll bring one of the things up. So I had the lucky fortune to work with some GATE students looking at this. And so basically it's something where you can just bring things in. So I'll bring in a clear, and when I click clear, that should clear everything. And over here, they construct something, and I gave them a challenge of making something that was a shape, and they had to make it so that it could do shapes from 3 sides up to 20 sides. And so this is one example of it. So that's Libby's one. Now I want to sort of quickly show you how it could vary around quite significantly. This one here is someone else's view of the same thing. So what we've got here is we've got a whole lot of variables and things that they've got in there, but they're actually talking about repeating things in a far more convoluted fashion, perhaps, to achieve the same result. So it's all about algebra and some of the things around iteration and it's actually so I just wanted to explore that, and I started off with giving them just a very small amount of information. So it's like, here's a pen that you can put down, here's how you move, and then gave them the challenge. First to make a triangle, then to make a square, the square, and then to make this sort of shapes up to 20. What was interesting in that is actually how they ended up seeing some of this stuff. This one is not actually about the shapes. This is about something that he did later on, which I'll quickly show you as well. This is Milan.
Angle of reflection works with this formula, 180 minus the direction of angle, and that equals the reflection angle. And in a diagram, that would be, this would be 0 and 180. And if the angle's coming in at 45 degrees, so that angle's 45 degrees, 180 minus 45 equals 135 degrees. So that would be over here.
I'm not sure whether people know what you'd actually then use that for, but what he used it for was to create a tennis game, the classic Pong, where the thing comes down and then it's got to go off on an angle. And then you can add in an additional variable, which means that it wouldn't always go off exactly right. But he then went on to sort of say that when it came back the other way, that was still 45 degrees over here, which didn't actually then work out for his formula. And when you get them to explain, when I got them to explain things in this way, they actually came up with a lot of thinking on the fly. And what you see is they've written 180, but they're past 180. They've only written 18, and they go back and they're sort of re-correcting a lot of their things. One opportunity I see possibly for this, people have talked about, is having desks, clear desks, so white desks. Each desk could become a whiteboard. With the mobile device, you could capture that and go forward. But the interesting thing was, and I've asked the same question of Libby, who's up next, was, you know, didn't you already know about this angle of reflection and things? She said, yeah, well, I knew about it, I just didn't know that it had any purpose. So one of the things is around the idea of purpose, and I'll quickly play the next one, which is Libby. She was talking about the crux of that whole iteration thing is to be able to say, okay, what's the golden rule there? What's the centre? What's the gold here? And the gold there was that each shape is 360 degrees divided by the number of sides. And so getting that concept across, and when people are going, it's 4, and so it's 125 degrees, they're actually, and they're making that big long thing, they're not going to the heart of the understanding. And so trying to get to the heart of the understanding with this. Oh, now I'm back. I will quickly show this. Again, look at the way she works with the whiteboard. So did you already know about shapes and internal angles, and did Scratch change anything that you knew about this?
Scratch definitely helped me to understand understand angles and shapes better, because I think because you're physically making them. But I didn't, before I used Scratch, I wasn't very confident in using angles, but now I think Scratch has definitely helped me. What I did when I was using Scratch is that the essential geometry can be used to measure the angles of shapes. So I'm going to draw a triangle, which has 1, 2, 3 sides. So because 360 is the total angle of a triangle, or any,
and I'll forward through that again, but basically just did these little recordings on my phone, which has got a couple of, somehow I've got sand or something in there, so you get those 2 blobs, but never mind. The thing is, it's actually worthwhile recording these things down. It was something that I found or believed as a result. When I looked at the outcomes, I also looked at what students said about maths in the Google Doc, and the subtle scratches, you can actually put these things online, and also basing this around one of the availabilities to Connected was to be involved in teaching as inquiry workshop that a number of us were involved in, and we're still following up with that. And I think that these inquiries, and essentially today the presentation of various schools, inquiries and journeys, is a great thing going forward. 5 minutes. Okay, great. So I'll have a quick look at this Google Doc of what students said. You can have a little bit of a look through that at your own leisure, but I wanted to reference a couple of things. Lots of reference to problem solving and practical activities, practical things. They don't like interacting with a worksheet, whether that be virtual or on paper. They want to look at real problem solving and doing investigation. And then they sort of, a lot of reference to the basics that they thought was there. They did think that Scratch was pretty good for looking at patterns. And one very capable student said, I kind of couldn't find out how to work it. It's a bit too advanced with the words and formatting, so I couldn't understand what is what. I prefer to keep moving rather than persisting. So it is an area in which you need to sort of have a little bit of persistence, and I also sort of struggled a little bit because I was trying to get the information that we wanted from them about the maths learning, and I gave them quite a bit of time here, but I still sort of felt like I didn't totally understand what it is that I now knew, and where to take Scratch and how to use Scratch, or what that might be. But I'll continue to gather that information. So the challenges I thought were, relating this to a curriculum, developing resources to support the program, because you do need some sort of little bit of interaction and scaffolding and support, whether it be they capture little pieces of themselves working with the logic of how to get things going and how to make things work. Matching boys and girls' interests. The boys were developing Mario games and their version of Tekken. It's the Street Fighter, and it goes this way and that way and then going up and down. And they were working with gravity. A lot of the girls were telling more narratives with Scratch because it's a very open tool in which to do things. So I'm quite interested in terms of trying to make sure that we have something that's going to be encouraging and embracing of everyone, not becoming tool dependent. So Scratch is something that I know, but I know there's many other things there. So what are we going to do when we we've got iPads? How are we going to work with this? And sort of also providing clear direction and outcome, and finding reflection time. The maths time that we had was quite tight, so getting that end of getting to that share part and reflection part was quite hard and difficult, and that's something I want to try and go forward on. And so next steps. It's a very funny picture, I know, to have up there, but this is what you get when you search on Creative Commons for try. And this is this man trying out his new apartment, how he described it. And I think, like some of these things are exactly that. We're trying out new apartments, we're looking around, seeing how things fit and work together. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to work with another teacher, looking at some idea of creating distributed capacity within the students and within the teaching staff to work with us more. Now, it has been used quite a bit within the school. Have some short videos to support in making and programs and to work with girls. And finally today, I also it's funny how things happen so quickly in the world today. I was at Ed Origami EduBlog, which is Andrew Church's from Kristen School's EduBlog, and I came across this, which I think is a really possible good reference point. It's the ladder of feedback which is coming out of the Harvard Graduate School Project Zero, and I really liked some of the phrases that they looked at there. So, and perhaps I'm thinking I might get better information from my inquiry out of doing this. Clarify what are the aspects of this lesson unit course that you believe. I'll leave you to have a look at that while the next person comes up. I thought that was a good inquiry approach.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay.